Ask me a question.
Why don't you want to put yourself out there as somebody who offers sessions for shadow work?
It's not that I don't want to put myself out there. Like, I'm putting myself out there. I'm doing the podcast. We've got videos. I have a website, all of those things. I just don't like to sell myself. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like
Why?
because I feel like energy should speak for itself. And it does.
Do you really believe that bullshit you just tried to
Yeah,
say?
100%. Like, I think, yeah. I think about some of the people that I booked in the past, and I've never once heard them be like, book a session with me, blah. And I'm like, okay. Like, it's just that they say something that like smacks me that hard. And I'm just like, I need to speak to this person.
Yeah, but I mean, like, you need to survive and you need to, like, take care of yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
if, your job, I mean, I feel like people need to kind of know. It's like if some people might not even know that you do it because it's like you don't, having a website is nothing. I could make a website in 10 minutes. That's
Mm-hmm.
not really putting yourself out there. Like sometimes I think you got to let people know,
Is
like,
this not letting people know?
well, now it is.
No, I mean like previous to now, our last episodes, the stuff that we talk about, like think about how much we've been doing this for like less than 3 weeks. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
you've been having exponential growth and I've been having exponential growth and we've been like rolling with mad transmutations. And I don't know, I feel like the conversation and the evolution of self is speaking for itself.
I don't disagree,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like, like when you go to the store and they have like the displays
Mm-hmm.
and like there's something that's like right in front of your face and you're just like, oh, I didn't know that I needed nachos tonight, you know?
But
So
now
it's
I
like
want
the same,
nachos.
but it's the same thing. It's like, I don't think if people don't know, like, sometimes you need to make it really simple for people and let them know that like you offer, what we've done on the podcast in a personal way.
Um,
So what's interesting to me is like why the hesitation. Like if you want to do this or want to do anything, like wouldn't like the answer to be like kind of do it
I am.
instead of
This is
like,
doing it.
oh, this needs to, like I'm gonna just be myself and then it's gonna fall into place. Or you don't
No, like I feel like that's exactly how the universe works. I'm going to be myself and it's going to fall into place.
Yeah, I don't really disagree with you necessarily, but I just think it is good to like, I think awareness is key sometimes. Like, you just have to like let people know that you're available.
I'm available.
There we go.
Are
And
you
that's the
satisfied?
episode for today.
We got to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
Solved. Life's good.
Yes. So, well, first I thought we could talk about like, you kind of worked with me. I don't think we posted it's not an episode, right? We kind of just recorded it.
No, it was like hard to edit because you just sounded so sad, and I was like, oh, yeah, that's what I'm thinking about, like putting up, like making a Patreon or something and having like background episodes.
Yeah.
Because I'm assuming we're going to get into like a whole bunch of situations in which we delve so hard into like emotional expression or something that they become dysfunctional as episodes. And I feel like it needs to be seen, but at the same time I kind of don't want to be like, this is the episode. So there's
Yeah,
something
I
there to
agree.
release. Yeah.
So we were, I guess maybe you could kind of give a synopsis of like where we were going and like what we were kind of working on.
In terms of the most recent shadow work transmutation for you,
Yeah, where like we were kind of, you were kind of teaching me to like tap into
anger.
anger and more of like my emotional, I guess my emotional body. And I really love your metaphor of Spider-Man holding off the train.
There are always going to be pop culture references, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, it makes me feel like kind of like the savior complex really feeds that, like, sacrificing yourself for the greater good.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's energetically, that's how you feel to me when you start opening up about, feeling stagnant, feeling restless, and feeling like you want to get where you're trying to go, but you can't. You haven't figured out how to get there, and you feel like you've got this very like Atlas kind of energy, like carrying the world on your shoulders. And I don't know how to recount things. I live in the moment, Pete. What is?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I was just trying to like get into it with that because I feel like from that there was a lot of you know, stepping off points. And it's like, I feel like with this, it's like once you start to be aware of like a pattern, you kind of start to see like once you kind of move the emotion connected to the pattern, it's like you start to see like the bridging points
Yeah, all
and
the
like the other,
threads.
yeah, all the threads. And like in so basically, I think I had some sort of resentment and anger built up from like kind of taking on the role of my mom's like emotional support buddy, like kind of taking on the brunt of her emotional issues, her grief, and her anger in connection to her father passing when she was a kid and all the things that came along with that.
Yeah,
And
and I'm as you're talking about it now, I'm also seeing the pressure that was translated to you because what a lot of what she was complaining about emotionally was like not having enough and not being provided for enough, which presumably came from her upbringing. But she put that onto your father, and then you kind of took on this like pattern, subconscious pattern of like I must provide, I must provide, I must provide, and like be the masculine archetype of provider. Like the
yeah,
pressure from that, fucking hell.
yeah.
Okay, Spider Man.
No, and um so anyway, like we did some work and I feel like I used the phrase like had an anger orgasm out my heart. That's what it
Yep.
kind of felt like to me.
Fuck
And
yes.
it kind of felt like really like raw. And like the next day, I think I was telling you, like I kind of felt like melancholy and like sad. And the way I am is like once I start doing something, I get obsessed with it. So it's like I want to get to the bottom of every emotion I have and feel it and like move through it. So it's like the whole day I was kind of just trying to allow myself to feel sad, which is something I definitely wouldn't normally do. And I was driving home and I was like, I'm going to put on sad music and try to really get into the emotion of sad and feel it and cry. And I I just started bawling my eyes out. And it was like I was starting to feel almost like it was almost like I was in like a trance state where like the energy of my mom was like moving through me,
Mm.
and I was getting glimpses. I kept seeing like my mom is the one who found out that her father died first because they came to her door and she answered the door. So I kept seeing like this scene of that and I was like having all this like mixed emotions of like really deep sadness, grief, and then like anger for like it happening, and like all the things that like my mom had to go through, what her family had to go through, like my grandma. And it also, I think I told you it was kind of weird, was I was like, all right, I'm starting to feel angry. So I like tried to embody the anger. And then I did another primal yell, and I yelled why, which was like not what I was thinking. It just like, came out,
Mm.
which I thought was interesting. But it really made me realize like that I kind of, you know, I take on the responsibility of how people feel around me.
Mm.
And then like from my mom and like that realization, I started to like see like a lot of the people I've attracted in my life who kind of do a similar thing, like kind of hold it against me if I don't take on their emotions, or I don't take responsibility for how they feel. It's like I get like I have a couple people who are like chronic like trauma dumpers on me, and
Mm-hmm.
like I've learned to kind of have some sort of boundary with those types of people, just because it just feels kind of a little parasitic at times. But like there is a real part of me that like if somebody's mad at me, I don't know how to like deal with it. Like I want them to like get over feeling mad at me, or like even my wife brought up when I was talking to her about this, kind of my mentor that you connected to in spirit, my friend Vincenza. She was a Cancer. She was very like emotional, and like I feel like made me responsible for how she felt. And she even used to joke around and call me like Jesus. It was like an ongoing joke that like, oh, Jesus is here, like to, save the world and stuff like that. And it just like connected so many dots. Even like people who I like work with. Like I would always take on like every crew I ever had when I was in charge of a group of guys. There was always one guy who was like a drug addict and had like all these problems, and I always felt bad for them, and I always like looked out for them and made excuses for how they acted because
Mm.
I like felt like almost like responsible for them
Yeah.
in such a and it's like such a weird after like I have the realization, I'm like, why did I do that? Like,
Empathy.
yeah,
The
maybe, but
thing is,
also
go on.
it serves me.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, right? Like, and this is I don't like using the word narcissist, and I really begrudge people who call themselves empaths in the sense that they are the unhealed empath. And that whole dynamic just feels like two states of like not being able to control when one opens and closes their heart chakra.
Yeah,
And then, of course, in the middle is actual, genuine, true empathy, which is like detached empathy, which is like, I will help when I have like a cup to pour from, and I won't help if not, so on and so forth, with, nuance thrown in. But that's the thing, is like when we have these wounds, there's like ways for kind of like the neediness or the parasitic nature of other people's wounds to like hook into us, and then it creates this like compelling kind of back and forth in which it feels like you don't really have a choice but to help, because you do feel for that person, because you are literally taking on their pain so that they don't have to like actually face it or feel it. That's also how we as healers have, for the most part, like historically done healing, at least for, the kind of like semi recent past of the earth, which I'm going to call like at least 10,000 years uh, recent. Healing up until very recently has been a very like, I will do this for you thing. And now it's starting to tip into like, no, you do this for yourself and I will hold space. And that is like organically how healing actually works. Like in any scenario of healing, even when we're doing like, I don't know, surgery or Reiki or something, it's still you who heals yourself, right? Like all the energy that you experience in your universe is your energy. You just create the illusion that someone else is doing it to you or whatever the fuck. But all
Yeah.
healing is just a choice to like mimic that vibration that's being suggested or offered in some capacity. But yeah, I don't know. We do like it's empathy, but it's like negative empathy. It's like empathy that you can't control when you feel like you have to like save other people. And really you're trying to save yourself. Like like because a condition was created in your childhood in which to survive, you had to save your parent because without them you would die. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's what's also interesting when I thought about all these experiences is that like so like most those people, actually I think all of them, the ones that came to my mind that I kind of took on their emotion support for them or responsibility for their emotions, they always wound up burning me in the end.
Yeah. Cuz when we step into this place of like savior and we saving people who are like disempowered, they have to take their power back somehow, you know, because we've stepped into the place of like, I'm giving you your power kind of thing,
Yeah.
which is why so much of my practice, I feel I try and reveal to people how they are their own power instead of me being like, no, I'm the one who does it to you, sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, and kind of like what I came around to as well is like, I had this, I guess, mental realization,
Mm.
but through the emotional realization, I really had the sense that like my mom is really just that kid who answered the door when her dad died. She has
Yeah.
not changed from them.
How old was she again?
She was 18
Yeah.
or 17, I think. And and the thing is, even till like today, she claims like being helpless a lot, like over like, things that you wouldn't even consider, like she comes to my house all the time. We went to the park and she wants me to follow her so she can get back to my house that literally is like 2 blocks away because
Right.
she thinks she'll get lost. Like little things like that like make other people like responsible for what's going on in her life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just those little things just over time kind of, I guess, almost like peck at your consciousness to be like, oh, I have to take care of her because she can't do this or she can't do that.
Yeah, and I mean that'll only happen. That'll only be able to even land in you if you do already have that wound. You know what I mean? Like when you heal that, it just closes up and you don't really get sucked in anymore. As soon as you feel someone like starting to, kind of try to create that bond of like, you're going to take care of me now, right? You
Yeah.
just kind of like you back away, you hold the boundary, whatever it is. It had to like it started in you young through her, and it started in her young. I'm imagining actually through her dad. Like there's such a helplessness. I feel like I feel like when you grow up, you kind of, if you're in a healthy environment anyway, you learn to hold space for your own emotions and you learn how to kind of provide and take care of yourself. And if one or both of those, usually both, is disabled, that's when you end up just kind of like flailing your shit around wildly at everyone trying to survive. I did it for a lot of my life. Like, it's not a judgment thing. We're all just coming out of a place of wounding, really.
Yeah.
So,
But,
go on.
well, I was going to say, like, the thing that does make it easier for me to have compassion for her is that realization that like a lot of the things she does that could trigger me is really just her coming from like that child self.
Yeah, people aren't really doing this stuff maliciously. Even when they're doing it maliciously, they still think they're doing it to survive somehow.
Yeah.
Like that's all that darkness is really, is feeling like you have no other choice to survive other than to do this thing. And a lot of the time it's unconscious, or if it's not unconscious, then we've justified it to ourselves with what we call logic, but it's really very emotional.
Yeah.
And it's like compulsion. And the more that you kind of alchemize what you got, you start seeing it everywhere, you know, like everyone is just reaching out to be loved and to feel safe, even when they're angry, even when they're whatever. It's like we're all children, you know, learning how to grow up in the universe on Earth here. It's like iterations of children until we've actually learned how to step into our own personal power.
Well, I guess we're getting there.
We are.
Yeah. And I thought it was also interesting. Like, I actually did kind of a similar, like, basically what you did with me, I did with my wife, and like
Mm.
how much it kind of, I felt the similar shift of just like, you know, she was interviewing for like some jobs, and she was kind of like feeling stuck. And like we kind of traced it back to like her self worth. She was adopted. Her dad was kind of somebody who just wasn't self aware and would kind of like anything my wife was into as a kid, he would like kind of complain about. And she traced it back to like a specific memory of him like being angry that he has to go to like some concert for her.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of pulled up that emotion and then did a primal scream, and it kind of felt like it popped, you know, like that like idea like popped, and you know, we'll see. And then
Fuck yeah.
she got like an email from some company that she interviewed for that now they want to interview her. Like she moved forward, and it was like
Exactly.
literally that day.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like the universe is always shifting and moving, and it's like you don't even have to necessarily do an action that logically makes sense, that would like trigger you to like have a success or have a breakthrough or whatever the fuck. You just need to move the belief that says that it's not going to happen, that's in conflict with the belief that says that it is, you know?
Yeah, but just to kind of offer like a contrary perspective maybe, or like just something I've noticed, and this is like 2 days, so what the hell do I know, like maybe it's just temporary,
Mm-hmm.
but it just feels like I'm a little more watery, you know,
Yeah.
like it's like I'm moving through my emotions more, which
Why is
feels
that
like a,
contrary?
well, because it feels a little like it doesn't feel good necessarily.
I still don't see why that's contrary.
Well, like because we're saying all these positive things, and like it's like if for me it just feels like a little out of control. Like, is this how women feel all the time?
I couldn't tell you because I don't know how men feel all the time. I know how feeling human feels, and
Yeah,
I know how feeling like a soul feels. Uh, I think what you've been doing for a lot of your life is holding off like 90% of your emotion, to be honest. And I
yeah,
feel like you've really only leaned into like probably more of the more positive ones. And you kind of like, it's like, you know, when you get drunk and you like don't want to pee because as soon as you do, you'll just keep needing to pee. This is like
yeah.
that. Like you've stepped into the ocean. It feels like you've like I don't know, turned on a tap and now the tap won't stop, and that's okay. That's fine, you know?
Is
It's just
it?
part of the process. Yeah, 100%. Why isn't it?
I don't know. Like, I feel like it's a little like shaky or like rocky, you know?
That's all right. That's fine. Be rocky.
But does it like mellow out, or like do we always have to
Yeah.
feel our emotions?
I mean, it mellows out in the sense that you will find a lot more inner stability through this. And you will also, you don't, I mean, have to is a strong
I
word, a
know.
strong
I was
phrase, but
joking,
uh huh, hilarious.
half joking.
Uh, but yeah, I mean, like, look, when you have emotion come up, the only thing to do really, even where you know you can and you feel like you have the strength to be vulnerable in it, is to surrender to it. Like
Yeah,
that's kind of what we have to do. It's like these elements and these layers of the psyche, like we really mostly should be surrendering to the physical world. You know what I mean? Like going with the flow of things, trusting, you know, if we get rejected for something, it wasn't for us. If we, you know, if the universe is leading us down a different path than the physical, that is for us, so on and so forth. And emotional is the same. We need to surrender to our emotions, just let them um, flow through. And then the masculine principles of the mind and the beliefs are the ones that we actively should be, quote unquote, changing within ourselves, and selecting and whatever. But yeah, look, when you first like let it through, especially because like that night when we were getting you into the emotion, you know, you um gave a lot of permissions and you asked for a lot of it to step in. And even when, I don't know, like we'll do a couple of smaller transmutations, we'll get you like stepping into your emotion a little bit, and then it'll kind of like dry up and you'll be like, okay, what's next? Like give me another one. So you're bringing this energy that's like, fucking hit me, universe, and then you get hit and you're just like, no, I'm drowning. Like it's like just roll with it.
yeah,
You wanted the big experience. You wanted um the flood. So be flooded.
yeah. I mean, it kind of feels like how when like Neo is learning like martial arts in the Matrix, it's like he starts to get a taste of like how much he can like, you know, feel into it, and then it's like I want to feel everything, you
Yes.
know.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And you've been asking me for months, if not years, like why do you need to cry? Why do you want to cry? What do you what is this? What are you like? Why the fuck are you torturing yourself by feeling your emotions? And like
Yeah,
then you get a taste and you're just like, oh, I want to eat it. Like
yeah,
bring me more, because it's so powerful, is it not, to finally let that fucking thing that's been just like sitting in your body or your energy for so long burn off and change and alchemize and turn into something that is like freeing and clearing. Like
yeah,
um
yeah.
is it
I mean,
not fucking liberating? Like it's so powerful.
well, because it's like I had to learn this when I was like 4, because it just feels like such a part of me to like try to hold back how I feel.
Mhm.
So it's like when it's with you that long, it's kind of hard to like even, it becomes such a process to even see the fact that you have these repressed emotions because it's so well like guarded,
Mhm.
you know?
What happened at 4?
Uh, Actually, you know what's funny? I think I've talked to you about this, or I've maybe talked on another podcast about this, but like one of my first kind of existential experiences, I actually thought I was older. And then I asked my mom the last time she was at my house, was when my mom's grandmother died.
Mhm.
And she said I was 4 or 5 years old, and my brother was like 3. And at the time, me and my brother were in the same room, and we found out that it was my great grandmother died in her sleep, and like we didn't even know what like death was yet.
Mm-hmm.
So like I remember like she fell asleep and died, and like me and my brother wouldn't go to sleep that night because we thought we were gonna die, and we like didn't even understand what that meant, you know.
Yeah.
So maybe that feeling of death was so like consuming, the idea that, because it was like my mom didn't explain really death, or like I don't even know how you can explain death to like a 4-year old, but I mean I try to, but um I remember like how terrifying that feeling was of like, wait a second, you like leave here and like where do you go?
Mm-hmm.
And then she probably gave me some sort of like Catholic Christian view of like the afterlife, which probably wasn't that comforting.
But what does that have to do with you repressing your emotions?
Because I didn't want to feel it.
Scared?
Yeah. I didn't want to be afraid of death. Like it feels so like final,
And
It
yet,
wasn't like, like even I feel like when my kids talk to me about like spirituality and stuff like that, I kind of share my experiences, but I also always leave it open to them to like have their own like perception and like feel what they feel,
mm-hmm.
you know? Where like I don't even really like I remember my mom trying to like just comfort us but not answer us.
Right. She didn't
Like
know how
what
to.
Yeah, and I'm not even judging her, but I'm saying like it was more of like the like I feel like with my kids, I don't try to give them like the traditional like child answer, like
Mm-hmm.
you'll be okay, just go to bed, like if they have a question, I try to like help them find their answer,
Good.
so and it's like when somebody like her who really wasn't looking for answers anyway. So it's like if I'm craving like a real understanding of it, like she couldn't provide it,
Mm-hmm.
or at least give me like direction.
I find it really interesting that the whole existential dread thing that you numbed out your emotions for, like, like you associate the emotion with death so hard. And I mean, it kind of is because I feel like when I transmute, I literally energetically shatter into like a million pieces. Like it feels like annihilation for me. And then I just rebuild myself like quickly, you know? So I mean, I can see how it's associated with death, like completely. And it is really the journey into the underworld. Like this is just as much psychopompy as anything else. But why did you associate it with death? Like the emotion and death so hard? Just
I don't
because of that
understand what you're
experience?
saying.
Like we were talking about your emotions and when you learned to repress them and you said when I was 4 and the memories of your grandmother dying and it was the fear of death that you were repressing and so every other emotion in you got repressed as well.
Because I probably taught myself how to like compartmentalize.
Mm. I feel like compartmentalization is really soul fragmentation, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, like, I think it's not necessarily just controlling fear. I think it was more about like controlling being consumed by things.
Mm.
Like, like if I'm terrified of dying because I don't understand it, and like that feeling like takes over my body. Like I have this like real physical like consuming reaction. It's like, well, if fear can do that, why can't anything do that?
Yeah, you feel like the demon's eating you instead of that you're eating the demon.
Well, I mean, if like if you could look at it like simple, like some sort of event triggers something in you to have like an emotional reaction, good or
Mhm.
bad. If that emotion is like consuming you or overwhelming you, it doesn't matter if it's fear, it doesn't matter if it's anger, it doesn't matter what it is, because you're just kind of consumed by feeling, which might, to me, maybe felt out of control. Like
Yeah.
I was so concerned with like where do I go when I die? Like what? And then like you get some like half-ass answer from somebody who, goes to church for Christmas and Easter and says they're Catholic but doesn't really understand it. And, like,
It suddenly makes so much sense to me why you're a fucking medium.
because I'm
Like,
obsessed with death.
yeah, that obsession of like, where do we go? What's on the other side?
I've always been obsessed with death and time.
Amazing. You've told me this story before, but now it's like really hitting like energetically, emotionally. Before it was so like intellectual of
Yeah.
an understanding of yourself, and now it's like that connection from heart to throat is clearing, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think like that's what it was, is like controlling, like being consumed.
Mm.
Like I have a real visceral feeling of like remembering like not being able to sleep that day because I just like couldn't like figure it out. And it was just like, like I think it's like the same thing you said that I used to say to you, like, oh, why do you cry so much? I feel like there's people who obviously don't feel things like other people. So it's like when you're
Mm.
feeling something so intensely and then the other person is like, just go to bed. Like it's like there's no real compassion or understanding to realize like what somebody could be going through.
Well, that's because it's not indifference, it's feigned indifference because they're uncomfortable with actually empathizing because it's stirring something in them. Like if your parent
Totally.
was
Well,
dismissive,
you got
it's
to look at it too. Like all the history that I've told you, it's like my mom was neurotic about death in the first place.
mhm.
She had the father she lost. She had the family that was, destroyed because her father was lost. So it's like she's not going to be the one who wants to talk about death to me.
Mhm.
But like I don't know the whole picture at that time. I'm a kid. Like I don't understand the depth. Like I never met my grandfather, so I didn't even understand the idea of like losing him. Like my great grandma was the first person that I remember dying as a kid.
I feel like there's
What?
something like I feel like there's something that you're like circling around, or like there's something deeper that's needing to be said here. I don't know
I
what it
don't
is
know.
though.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I think like just talking about it, like I feel like my solar plexus kind of like turning on for some reason. So then I was thinking like why is it turning on? So like solar plexus to me always represents like energetic boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
So is it like not only I was thinking this like not only maybe is it like overwhelming for her to have me ask all these kind of like mental questions, but like maybe she was aware of like how intensely I felt it. So then like by her kind of rejecting me in a sense, it like taught me to like close down
Mm-hmm.
like in terms of like solar plexus, like pull myself in,
Yeah.
like pull my energy in, and then like you know I like you've said, but I've always said this is like you know your memories to me always are like hidden clues
Mm-hmm.
of like what you were always told and stuff like that. And like I was always told like I was a quiet kid, kept to myself, never was a problem for anybody. But it's like now I'm having all these different rolling realizations. So it's like if I'm aware or my mom's aware of like how intensely I'm feeling things, but she's kind of logically like rejecting conversation that like I demand because I want to have depth. And then in turn, I'm pulling my energy in to be like more internal.
Mm-hmm.
And then like I have these stories of everybody always telling me like my aunts, my mom, like I was the best kid. I would just sit somewhere and just like not talk and be quiet. And people just used to think how quiet I was. And it's like, yeah, because maybe like I was afraid of like externalizing everything that I had going on me. So I just like
Yeah.
held it all in.
Your solar plexus, like you associate it so hard with boundaries, and it's that, but it's also expression. Like your solar plexus is your sun.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So sorry. What were you going to say?
It's, I mean, I finished it, but like really think about it. Like you associate your solar plexus so hard with boundaries, and it's really there for expression.
Well, and I always associate it with like your will,
Yeah.
like your ability to kind of like push yourself out into the world.
Mm-hmm. Which is interesting because I don't know, the way that I feel like I express is like glowing, you know, especially as a generator. It's like glowing, glowing, glowing. It's just being the big ball of light as a person. And yet you've it's interesting. It's like that boundaries and then pushing yourself out into the world feels like such a kind of projector energy. It's like very forceful. And it makes a lot of sense. Like if you've got a ton of boundaries, then there's a lot of kind of I don't know, protection going on, and then it's more like an attack, an assault, a conquest, um, rather than just like a glowing and a being, and I don't know, just radiating your essence into the world. And that's really how it should be, quote unquote,
Yeah.
healthily.
But
Mm.
like it's interesting that you just said the whole like conquest thing because it's like I think like I'm still obviously always learning,
Uh huh.
but I think like there's the mental body, there's the emotional body, there's the spiritual body, right? But I think
Mm-hmm.
they all connect to like your chakras just on like different layers,
Yeah.
right? So if I'm suppressing my emotional body and I'm living a lot in my mental body, it's like I am, I don't know the right way to say this, but I guess like this is not a word, but like it's almost like I'm mentalizing every like chakra's purpose.
Intellectualizing.
Great word. I should have said that word. But I'm gonna keep mentalizing because it just
All right.
sounds ridiculous.
All right.
But I'm mentalizing basically every chakra for its purpose.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like I'm not embodying its purpose because I'm living in my mental body instead of
Exactly.
my energetic, like my emotional body.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like this is great because it's like the point I was actually trying to make is coming through instead of like how it came out. And it's like for you to like actually, I guess, materialize or like manifest your reality, I think you have to move things through each chakra or like through each layer to fully embody like the depth of the chakra. I'm using chakra, but it's really like it's like okay, so like say you're in your mental body with your heart. So it's like this like um what was the word you used now instead of mentalize?
Intellectualize.
Intellect. So like in your mental body you can intellectualize love. And that's a version of love. It's not the full version of love, but it's almost like an aspect
Mm-hmm.
of love. But since it's only like an aspect, it can be corrupted.
Yeah.
Now, if
Because it'll
you
be
are,
projected.
yes.
It's
So
either you or
now,
them.
yes. But
Mm.
that's where like I was talking to you about the whole Aubrey Marcus thing is that like maybe he is being sincere with what he like believes, but
That's what I said.
he's only in his like mental body. He's not like fully embodying the whole his whole truth. So it's coming out corrupted
Yeah.
instead of like
That's
really stepping into it.
that's essentially what I would call unaligned, right? It's like you've got two different parts of yourself that want two different things. You're trying to figure it out with your mind. You're trying to pick like the correct choice. You're trying to use the evidence in the outside world to like justify whether or not it's correct and what you should do and blah blah blah. And then plus they got that like creepy pedophile doctor guy like coaching them through this fucking radical monogamy bullshit. And it's like there is unalignment, you know what I mean? And it's because these women, I have not watched this episode, by the way. I did not know anything about this fucking guy until
Yeah.
recently. Because these women haven't honored the fact that they are triggered as fuck and gone into their backstory and X, Y, and Z. They are trusting that he is in alignment and that he is leading, and he's not, because he won't be able to actually face like the fragmentation that's within because of all the intellectualizing. You know what I mean? Like, if we're playing into these stereotypes, which I don't really feel like are actually true, but if we're playing into the stereotypes that men are more logical or whatever the fuck, can you imagine how much fucking harm is justified through logic, quote unquote?
Yeah.
It's like,
Totally.
oh, I just overriding people's emotional reactions to things. It The way that I conceptualize it, and I spoke to you about a dream that I had and ongoing dreams that I had where it's like a masculine figure like tries to kill me every time I move. If I'm not just like completely frozen. Like, it is really using the masculine aspect of you, or a masculine aspect of you, which is your mind, to dominate your emotions, which is, you know, a feminine aspect of you. So it's like all of us have been like beating up our inner women, our inner, I don't know, mother, our inner wives, our inner blah, blah, blah for centuries. All of us have been doing that. You know what I mean?
Why do you think that is, though?
Because it helps to create the illusion of separation. Because I don't know, I feel like we wanted to play a game in which we intellectualized. I mean, there's so many answers to this question. There's so many layers to this question. Because it was unsafe, because it was overwhelming to feel all of the pain of everything that's happened. You know, even now, and we're kind of like blessed in a way, we're lucky to live in a society in which we have slowly kind of infused ourselves with the understanding of like psychology, the importance of emotional expression, things like that. Like, because all of this would have seemed insane to people even 50 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, even talking to my grandma about like letting my emotions out, letting myself be catastrophically sad when I'm sad. And she's like, oh, your life must just be like an emotional roller coaster. And I'm like, yeah. And it's fucking liberating. You know what I mean? Like, so much better than just trying to like hold on for dear life every single time something fucking triggers me and make logical decisions through it, which always end up fucking you in the long run anyway.
Yeah.
Like, it looks mental, but it's actually how we're meant to operate. You know what I mean? And I think that there's another side of this story in which we aren't nearly as emotional about so much stuff, but there's just so much wounding that we also need to like transmute on individual and therefore collective levels.
Yeah. Well,
And
it's
then we'll
funny.
come to a place. Yeah, go.
It's funny because I really haven't mentioned him, but my brother is like a triple Pisces.
Mm.
And I used to always like make fun of him for being so emotional and like judging him. And
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't until I was like in my 30s that I realized like he's the one who is like vulnerable, you know, like, and I always
How
judged
old are
him
you
for it.
now?
How old am I now? How old do you think I am?
I have no idea. Wait.
42.
Okay. So it's taken you what, another 10 years ish to be like, maybe there's something to this.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, he was always so like vulnerable and like easy to fall in love and just, you know.
Easy to fall in love. Do you find it difficult?
Um, I don't know. You know, actually, I wanted to talk to you about this because I thought of this is
Uh huh.
like when I was in college, I was originally like a psychology major, and they used to have like when you're like in the major, they would have like different like elective courses that were kind of like outside the spectrum of like the normal courses.
Mm-hmm.
And they had this course, it was called The Psychology of Love, right? And this doctor did this experiment where he came up with like these like 40 questions, and he believed that if I should look this up. I didn't
I
even think of that.
literally came across a reel today of like, it was like, um, is it when they put the two people together and then they like complete strangers and then they ask each other
Yes.
these questions and they like automatically fall in love and like fucking marry each other like 6 months later? Yeah, I
So
literally stumbled across this today. I was going to send it to you and I was like, why? Why am I sending this to Pete? I don't know.
yeah, so it was like he basically like hooked them up to brain scans and like came up with this like series of questions where like he believed after asking these 40 questions, people basically start to like show like brain chemistry and like brain reactions where they're basically falling in love.
Yeah. And, again, intellectualizing it so hard. What that is vulnerability, right? Because everyone
Yes.
who does those questions is like, okay, I'm going to tell the truth. Like they're going to tell as much of the truth as they possibly can. That's kind of part of the shtick of like answering the fucking questions. And of course they're falling in love because they're just like bearing their souls to each other, probably in ways that they have not bared their souls to people before. Like I've read these questions, they are fucking trivial as fuck compared to the stuff that we really dig into. But for the collective human race, these would be incredibly like confronting questions in terms of vulnerability. And if people are willing to answer them, like we all are in love with each other. You know what I mean? The whole universe is made of love. We're obsessed with ourselves and each other. And it's hiding these aspects of ourselves and not wanting to be rejected and trying to uphold like a persona or a mask or whatever to try and keep ourselves safe that creates all the fucking hate and the projection and the everything else. Like as soon as you get more vulnerable, your life just starts falling into place, even if you have to go through a rough patch where people fall away or get repelled or whatever the fuck. It's mm, vulnerability. Ooh.
Yeah.
Anyway, what were you saying about the
I don't know
questions?
why I was getting into that, but I just I don't know why I originally wanted to bring that up to you, but it just
Well, were we talking about conquest? We were talking about your brother. I asked you if it was easy for you to fall in love.
oh yeah, so like I think that's why I brought it up is because it's like, what is love?
You tell me.
I don't know. Like I feel love when I'm around certain people, like I don't know what I would do without certain people.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's love, like I don't think I could,
That sounds like
hit.
attachment.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, not that I think we have a healthy degree of attachment as humans. There is kind of like well, I don't know. Yeah, I feel like we are coming to this place that's like, even though it would hurt if I lost this person, I know that I would survive it, and I know that I would move on and I know that I'd find other people to love and be loved by.
Yeah.
And with that being said, it's a challenging place to get to, especially if you've been kind of insecurely attached previously. But anyway, keep telling me about what love is to you.
So I think like for me, uh yeah, this is a hard question. I don't know exactly what I feel. Like I
Okay, let's not intellectualize it. How does it feel when you're thinking about your daughter?
it feels like this um like it's like a blossom, it's like a blossoming
Mm,
in my heart.
mm,
That's the best way to describe how it like feels. Like it's like this like I don't want to be new agey spiritual, but it's like like
too bad
I
you
think of
are.
like a lotus flower type thing, like it's like this like
This is literally how they depict the chakras. You know what I mean?
yeah, like I feel like I see, like a flower being born
Mm-hmm.
is like I how I imagine love is feels like, like that sounded bad, like not like the imagery that comes to me when I
Yeah.
feel it.
And do you also feel probably a less intense, but a similar kind of love when you think about the other people that you love in your life?
I feel like the people I love in my life, I can feel that way as well.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, I feel a depth for my daughter that just like flows much more easily.
Yeah. I mean, and that's understandable for your child, right? But
Is it?
yeah, why
Well,
wouldn't it
because I
be?
think like, well, this is like kind of something we've talked about before. It's like, is there like a shadow there? Because I was thinking about this is like the depth that I feel sometimes. Like I can look in her eyes and it's like there's like just something there that just like I feel it through my whole body.
Mm-hmm.
Like I could cry
Yeah.
when I just like look at her. If I really like allow myself to feel into that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, yeah, okay, that's probably love, right? But then it's also like,
Probably. Maybe. Just casually.
but then it's also like, this kind of also unfolded when I was like kind of feeling into my mom and like all that grief and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, is there a greater depth of love because it's almost like there's like I view her being a female, being my daughter, being a child as like a deeper layer level of like innocence
Yes.
and like purity. So it's like I could really unfold in the love for her because real um there's no real judgment. She like, because it's like, even we've talked about before, is like the whole like thing with like my oldest son and wanting him to be like a strong leader type, whatever. It's like I love him, right? But I feel like I maybe don't allow myself to unfold in the same fashion because there's like, oh, I can't allow that much love because it's like there's like this like conditioned thought of like, oh, like he's got to be tough or like he's got to be strong, and it's like this like contrary like beliefs, so I don't allow myself to unfold as fully as I do with my daughter, who like I honestly, she could be like, Dad, I want to be a fucking hula hoop dancer. And I would be like, that's the fucking greatest idea I've ever heard in my life. Like, I love you no matter what, you know? Where my
Mm-hmm.
son, it's like, if my son said something like that, I might be like, you gotta, be successful, or you gotta like make money, or you gotta like, you know?
You understand that like our children are we like project aspects of ourselves on everyone, and our children are like really intensely reflective of ourselves.
Of course. I mean, I'm working with uh, the greatest shadow worker I know.
What does that have to do with anything? Like you understand the reflection now?
Yeah,
Okay. And so what part of yourself feels like if you give it love, you won't be tough?
I would say probably the same aspect that my father told me all the time, like not to be like, not to show emotion or like not to cry or
Mm-hmm.
not to, be a pussy.
How'd that make you
Um,
feel?
not great, probably. I don't remember like, I don't remember. Like, I remember him like saying not to cry and stuff like that, but I don't. I can't bring up like a actual um, experience.
Yeah, so sometimes we don't remember things specifically, we remember things energetically. We have an impression of them. It was kind of like a longer story told throughout our childhood through micro expressions and things like that, stuff that wasn't like directly impactful in a very acute way, but it
Yeah,
still lands. And that when we have those kind of things, it's about feeling into the energetics of the memory, so to speak. How does it resonate? You already have, like, when we do this kind of thing in shadow work and I'm leading you further inwards and further and like deeper into your emotional layer, it's like we're already aware of it. You know what I mean? You asked me the other day who the first person that came up, if there were three people in my heart that were like little fucking horrible worms keeping me stuck, and two of them are my parents, and the third one was someone else, and the first person I thought of was my uncle, and I did not want to look at it. I was like, I don't know. Maybe it's this other babysitter that I had. Maybe it's, and then like a couple minutes later, I was like, okay, it's my uncle. I know it's my uncle. Um, so tell me how it felt and don't say not great. What's not great? Look at that.
yeah. Um, well, it's like if you're having these feelings and somebody's telling you not to have these feelings, it's like I can't really control how I feel. It's
Mm-hmm.
like what's coming up within me. It feels like wobbly. It feels
Yeah.
like um like off kiltered. Like it's almost like the best sensation I kind of feel from it is like feeling like wobbly, like I'm connected to a pole, but the pole is like off center.
Okay.
And it's like I'm kind of like revolving, but it's like it's like there's always like constant movement of emotions.
Unstable.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, I mean, and this is kind of how the conversation started, right? Like you asked me, it feels really out of control. It feels unstable. This is the feminine aspect. You know what I mean? You think about the Empress card in the tarot, and it is pure wild. You know what I mean? It's it's not meant to be stable. It's meant to be, how to describe this, as chaotic as nature is. You know what I mean? There's an order to it, but to be it is chaotic. It's at the same time flourishing, but also kind of terrifying. And it's that part of you that you rejected. You know what I mean? That's the same reason why you've been trying to like keep everything stable for so long, be Spider-Man, all of those things, because he rejected that part of you and you learned that to be lovable, you had to as well. And now you're teaching it to your sons.
yeah,
No
yeah.
judgment.
I mean, that doesn't feel good. Like, I don't want to teach them that because I know what's at the end of the tunnel. It's like, I know now that I want to feel. Like, I don't want
Hmm.
to reject how I feel. It's
So
like,
let's
it's
dig
who I
into
am.
how you felt, how you really felt when you felt like that part of you wasn't lovable and was rejected and unwanted.
Um, I just feel like very vulnerable. Uh, like I'm not protected. You know, it's kind of what I'm feeling come to the surface.
Sit in that a moment.
I just saw Jesus. I just had a image or like a visualization of Jesus just like take over my mind's eye.
Do you have any instinct about what to like lean into, or what to? Is there anything coming up?
I still feel like the solar plexus is activated. It feels better, but then I'm also feeling like my heart kind of opening.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also, like when I said wobbly before, it's almost like I feel like the center channel of my energy is like leaning to the side.
Which side?
Right.
To the masculine side.
Yeah.
Can you energetically pull it to center?
Yeah. Actually, I can. I feel like I did or am, but it it made me like when I started to feel that, it made me think like, so if we were talking about before, like me with the energetic boundaries, like I tend to like pull everything in to internalize my energy. And
Mm-hmm.
that was kind of like the defense mechanism for like dealing with my mom.
Yeah.
So like what was the defense mechanism for dealing with my dad? I know, well, I know I don't care was one of them, because it's like if he's trying to tell me how to be or what to do, or is having a hissy fit, and me saying I don't care is like my way of like strategically dealing with him. Like if I don't give him a reaction when he's mad or he has a concert, or concert, where did that come from?
Your
The hell
wife.
was it? Oh, my wife. Oh
The
yes.
concert.
Yeah. So um
You took some on. Go
yeah.
on.
So if, like, how am I dealing with him?
Apathy. Can I give you a perspective flip?
Yeah, sure.
You felt like you were retaining your control by not letting your emotions out around him, but you were actually giving him your control because it was exactly you having emotions that made him feel like he was insecure. And instead of owning that and facing it, he made it your problem and created safety for himself by damaging your ability to emote.
Yeah.
So, this whole time, technically, even though it has falsely felt powerful for you to not be vulnerable and to be apathetic and not care, you've actually been playing into the kind of structure or trap that he set up in order to feel safe for himself.
So what do I do to kind of shift that?
You just keep digging into it. We'll keep circling it. Eventually, the emotion will well up.
So now it feels like the energy that was in my solar plexus is moving down to like my sacral.
Mm-hmm.
Why would that be?
Do you feel angry?
Do I feel angry?
Could
No.
you feel angry?
Could I feel angry? I feel like anger is always a possibility in my life.
That's okay.
I feel like that's my go-to way of expressing.
Anger is very protective.
Protective.
Hmm.
See,
It's how
like,
we protect ourselves.
I always felt like anger felt like not responsible,
Yeah. I
because it's like
mean,
I explode, and then it's like I don't have to deal with like what I did really.
I'm not saying anger is protective in a healthy way by using it all the time. You know what I mean? In some circumstances, sure. If some guy fucking grabbed me in a bar, I think anger would be immediately the correct response. But in general, it's not actually useful or healthy to point it at people.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, like, your boundaries were crossed as a kid. You were effectively coerced under duress to repress yourself, and that is naturally going to spark anger. That's what I think of when we go to the sacral. You know what I mean?
But
And
why?
what do you mean why?
Like, why do you think that about the sacral? Like anger.
Well, the root has fear. The sacral has anger. I guess the solar plexus has boundaries.
Well, what do you feel like? Is that what do you agree with that, or
Yeah,
what's the wheels turning for them?
I'm just thinking into. Remember, I told you the other day, anger's the flip side of passion. You
Yeah.
know, like if the sacral was a planet, it'd be Mars. It just has both facets. It's like, how do we express? Maybe, you know what I'm thinking is recently, through transmuting a lot of my trauma for being abused and being able to create a sense of safety in my body, a lot of the reason why your emotions are held off is because they're not registering as safe for you to have or express or hold. And I'm feeling like maybe that energy moving down to your sacral is like part of being able to ground in and feel safe to tap into your emotions and actually express them and explore them and things.
I feel like that resonates, or that feels true. Because I feel like as it moved to my sacral, kind of everything else kind of dissipated.
Okay.
Like now I don't really feel anything in my body that I felt before. Like it was almost like as I'm talking about it with you, it's like the my bodily awareness is kind of like moving to like kind of signal me like where like things are activated. And then as it kind of moves to the sacral, the stuff in my body kind of dissipated.
And when you think about the idea of not being allowed to feel your emotions, what comes up now?
I feel pretty like clear, kind of.
Hmm.
I still feel like there's like something with like dad and the solar plexus. I still feel like a little bit of a like um, tickle, I feel a little like pressure there
Mm-hmm.
still. But I also don't know if that's you because I feel like that's kind of a signature for your dad.
For my dad.
Yeah, I always feel like your right side solar plexus,
Yeah, I
which
can
is
kind of feel it
connected.
right now. A little bit.
You feel it?
Yeah, well, now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah. But does me talking about everything with my dad activate your energy with your dad?
Not consciously, but I feel like that pattern was there as well. He always used to say to me like, stop with those crocodile tears. Like I was faking it if I got upset. So there's that for sure. It was very invalidating. Like being told that.
So that idea that you were faking it,
Mm-hmm.
um, where does that come from with him?
Um, I don't know. I mean, he's not a very emotional person at all. He's got so much Jupiter energy. He's like jovial all the time. He can tap into a little bit of anger, but he's not. He doesn't feel feelings. Why does it matter, really?
I don't know.
Ultimately,
Yeah, I was just thinking out loud.
mm.
I have to pee.
Go pee. I feel like we need to reset the topic.
Sure. What do you want to reset it on?
Conquest.
Oh, you really want to get to that, huh?
I'm so thirsty
You
for
want to
it.
get to my inner Aubrey Marcus? Oh, man. All right, hold on one sec. Do you need anything? You want a coffee?
Yeah, can you get me one?
Subject change? I was starting to feel like I was like dropping in too much. I don't know.
Yeah, full trance mode. Tell me about the conquest. Tell me about why being strategic about what you reveal to people and being disconnected from your emotions creates the desire for conquest, and how has it infiltrated your life?
No.
Why? What?
You're putting words in my mouth.
I'm quoting your fucking videos.
I deleted it because I didn't like it, so it doesn't even exist.
It exists here.
So I don't know. Like I was thinking about all right. So if I am, I don't know. I feel like spirit is blocking me on purpose because they don't want me to use the word. Oh, there it goes. Intellectualizing. So like if I'm intellectualizing like emotions, say like love, right? Okay, well let's reset. If you're thinking of like the difference between like something I would do for my own practice and I would share with people. I actually think I got it from like Tony Robbins, but I kind of shifted a lot of what he said. But basically, like if you're in your emotions, it's hard for like you to be in like if you're in your I'm sorry, I'm going all over the place. Pause, take a breath. Okay. So say you're anxious, right? Anxiety comes from like you kind of over analyzing things, which would mean that you're majority in your mental body because you're like kind of worrying about the past and worrying about the future. You're not kind of like in the moment,
I agree.
right? Not that anxiety doesn't come from other things, but I'm saying like observing your body and your thoughts. It's like if you're over analyzing, you're worrying about past, future, and that's kind of what creates anxiety. So if you teach yourself to kind of, instead of like having your awareness in your head, you have your awareness like in your heart, you're more in like your emotional body, right? So
Yeah.
it's like you can have an apple and taste the deliciousness of enjoying an apple would be like more being in your emotional body. But
Yeah.
like you like thinking about like, oh, is the apple organic or does it have pesticides or that's more of the mental body. And I think I wouldn't say it's a shadow aspect of the mental body. I would say it's more of like almost like a side effect of being in your mental body is that you tend to see maybe like where your holes are. Like you tend to see like that sounded bad. But you tend to see like where maybe you're lacking, right? Because like to me like the logic mind or the logic way of thinking is strategic. So it's like you're if
Trying to plan
you're
ahead.
yeah, like you're like the strategic mindset I would say, tends to worry. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like you're worried what's going to happen,
Okay.
right? So if you take that into like relationships, I think you tend to like focus on maybe where you're lacking.
Okay.
And now how does this tie to conquest? Right? So what would the shadow aspect of being like focused on, like if you're strategic, it's like it's anything. Like if I'm trying to make money and I'm more in my logic strategic mindset, you would naturally want to like hoard wealth.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
Theoretically. Yeah. Theoretically, yeah. For sure.
So why wouldn't that translate into other things? If
Like
that's
pussy.
like, well, I
Hoarding
think
pussy?
like,
Are we hoarding pussy for the future?
yeah, there's a whole closet in my house dedicated to hoarding. No,
Fleshlights. Just
yeah,
every guy.
yeah, no,
No,
but I think,
seriously, I'm still not seeing the disconnect. Build this bridge for me.
what do you mean you're
How
nuts?
how is intellectualizing leading you to conquest in terms of sexuality?
Well, I think it's like in your mental body. I think I'm not saying this is the right way to be,
I
or
know, I
I'm
know.
not even saying this is how I am. I'm saying that I think we are conditioned.
I think it's so funny that you don't think this applies to you.
I'm not saying it doesn't apply to me. I think it applies, but I think it applies to every man because I think it's like it's also like a capitalistic, like internalized capitalistic view of like sexuality.
Certainly patriarchal at the very least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you all right?
Yeah, I'm fine. This is tickling every bone in my body right now. This is so funny. Keep going.
I'm saying that like internalized capitalism teaches, I mean, American culture. It's like, the teenager, like what's the biggest like thing to conquest as a teenager? A teenage boy is to get
Pussy.
laid. No?
This episode is going to be called Stockpiling Pussy.
How about mentalizing pussy?
No, stockpiling's better because it's more ridiculous.
Yeah.
Okay, can I give you symbolic representation here? When you
Sure.
are stuck in the logic mind and you are hyper masculinely approaching life, what do you think chasing pussy's all about? Is reconnecting with one's emotions and feminine aspects.
You think so?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Why? So you're saying the guy who is the womanizer is actually trying to find balance
And
internally.
vulnerability and connection.
Yeah, but then once you connect, why do you keep searching for more connections?
Because you're not actually connecting.
So, but this
Because you
kind of,
think the connection is sex, but the connection's not sex. It's heart to heart, genuine, true empathy and exchange.
yeah, so then how do you pivot from, so like, would the pivot be essentially connecting back into your emotional body because you're when you're hyper masculine, you tend to be hyper in your mental body.
Or realistically disconnected from your emotional body, because I can tell you, as someone who has integrated a fuck ton of their emotional body, I am no less intellectual. It's just that I have both now.
So you have both.
It's when you're disconnected from your emotions, It's not one or the other. You know what I mean? You're not getting into your emotional body and then throwing fucking logic and intellect to the wind. It's that you then have both. Like, this is the alchemical path. This is the symbol of the hermaphrodite. You connect your feminine aspects and your masculine aspects and then gain actual true control over self, which is simultaneously control but also surrender.
So can we make like a blanket statement that men who are hyper masculine stockpile pussy to reconnect to their emotional body?
They are subconsciously seeking that reconnection. They won't necessarily successfully achieve it. But yes.
But you think like the subconscious motivation is that they're actually seeking balance or reconnection to their emotional body.
Think about every single woman you've ever connected with sexually or pursued or conquested or whatever the fuck. And think about how that starts. You know what I mean? You don't just rock up into their DMs and send a dick pic and then just get physicality back. There is an
Like
emotionality to it. There's a
I
vulnerability to
usually
it.
I usually dress up in like Alexander the Great costume and like take pictures of myself on like a horse because I'm getting ready to like conquest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
Are you avoiding thinking about what I'm putting on the table?
Oh, you know me so well already.
Maybe I just know myself.
Yeah.
So you connect. You connect with someone, right?
Yeah.
Even if it's just, the first couple of days of knowing them. There is a safety in the fact that if they reject you, it won't hurt because you're just like, well, they don't know me deep enough, so it doesn't matter. Fuck them. There'll be another person because you also haven't connected with them. So you're just like, there might as well just be like anyone with holes.
Yeah.
And, but then there's the thing that the subconscious craving is kind of there for, which is the connection, which is the play. It's the seduction. It's exchanging information. It's exchanging tidbits of self.
Yeah.
And then because the intention and the focus is there for the physical aspects and the revealing of whatever the fuck and the play,
Yeah.
when you get that, it's like, okay, well, this can go in the bin now, potentially, or at least on the shelf. And then the next conquest begins because it's like, then it becomes too intense. It becomes too risky because as soon as like a feminine person kind of starts opening up, that's when they want more connection. You know what I mean? They're like, okay, we've revealed a little bit of ourselves to each other. I've then done something that's quite vulnerable, which is revealing my physical self to you. Now you show me more emotionality, which is too fucking challenging. You know what I mean? For someone who's holding off their emotions, it becomes a threat then. And that's where the avoidance comes in and the withdrawing comes in. And then we're off to the next person, which will feel, safe, whatever the fuck. And that person now gets classified as like too emotional, too involved, too clingy, too whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, but do you think like this is where like the whole discussion of like poly and monogamous comes into play? It's like, do you think you can hold that with multiple people?
Subjective. Do you?
I think you can.
Yeah. No, I'm not asking if you think people can. I'm asking if you think you can, because some people are
No,
going to
I think
genuinely have a no.
I think I can,
Yeah.
because um I think like I feel more attracted to people the more vulnerable I'm allowed to be with them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like if you're just seeking having like intense connections where you're fully vulnerable with people, like why couldn't you be vulnerable with multiple people? and like also allow yourself to express yourself sexually without,
You can, but we're not talking about making genuine connections and having these kind of, I don't know, authentic exchanges and true vulnerability. We're talking about conquest.
yeah, but I'm saying like the womanizer is seeking their conquest to integrate like their feminine aspects or their emotional body, right?
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, like, there is this internal desire to do that, right? So if he, for some reason or another, eventually pivoted to the point where maybe he was willing to like push it further than he was previously comfortable doing, he could actually
Mm-hmm.
eventually find genuine connection, right?
Absolutely. Is that not what's happened?
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. Like, so you were kind of saying that he couldn't do, like, that couldn't happen.
No, no. I was saying that some people won't achieve it because they'll be too reactive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or they'll be very successful in being avoidant enough for that long, or they will genuinely have, I mean, you're still someone who I would classify as quite an empathetic person. I think you really have to be to connect with spirit as much as you have, whereas um there are a lot of people out there, especially womanizers, who like have cut off a lot of their empathy. You know what I mean? So, and that becomes very disabling in terms of actual integration and connection and vulnerability and all of those things, but also enabling in terms of the avoidance and successfully manipulating or weaseling their way out of things or whatever to protect themselves from,
Yeah.
the pain that comes up in true connection and the triggers and whatever.
Yeah. So do you think people can generally have enough room to hold space for multiple people
Yeah, absolutely. Like conceptually, yeah.
conceptually?
Well, like
What do
not
you
everyone
mean?
does.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, obviously, we're all different human beings and we're all kind of seeking different things.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, like, I feel like my goal as a human being has always been to kind of, not that I'm there yet, but like, has always been to like love everybody unconditionally
Yep. Me too.
and and accept people unconditionally, regardless of like whoever they are as a
Mm-hmm.
person. So why am I saying that?
Why are you saying that?
Well, because I think there's like definitely conditioning and like social programming to kind of not really believe that's possible.
What
You
part of you
know,
doesn't believe it's possible?
I would say the condition part. Like, I don't know.
That's a blanket statement.
I know. Uh, what part doesn't think it's possible? I guess it's like kind of like maybe I put that out there because it's like taboo to believe otherwise. Like I feel
Is it?
like well, I mean, it's not socially it's not a social norm to have like multiple partners that you're like in love with.
Yeah, but you're an Aquarius. Like you've been seeking the opposite of social norms for a long time.
Yeah, but I think like there's a part of me that like enjoys like I feel like sometimes like traditional values kind of maybe feel a little more stable. you
Mm-hmm.
know? So it's kind of, it's easier to like latch on to like stability than like the
Not for
uncomfortable
long.
feeling. Yeah.
Traditional values are just constructs and they're all falling apart. And all this Aquarian energy, which I feel like polyamory and things like that really tap into Aquarian energy. Um, they're being built, and there's, the more that people get on board with them, the more stability there is, and the more it's normalized and the less taboo it is, and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. Well, I think like the thing that kind of resonates with me is like anybody who's been in any long term relationships, it doesn't necessarily even have to be marriage, has had the experiences of like ebb and flow. It's like you, long term relationships, it's never, it feels like it's always kind of like up and down. Sometimes you're hot, sometimes you're tired, sometimes you're, bored, you're kind of having different experiences. People are growing at different paces.
Mm-hmm.
Even like if you look at it from an astrological standpoint, it's like you're always going through different transits that are kind of bringing up different issues.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it makes more sense to kind of like, especially being generator too and being like a sacral authority, it there's times for activation and then there's times when you're not.
Hey, Pete, are you intellectualizing it?
No. Do
You
you think
sure?
I am?
A little bit, yeah.
I'm feeling
What,
that. Like I
what's
feel like
your
well,
what's your point though? You're like,
what's
logically it makes sense to have, I don't know, polyamorous relationships, question mark? Like, what's your, I don't know.
um
There's something you're trying to like prove here.
no, I just think like I don't know what I'm trying to say, to be honest. I'm kind of just talking whatever comes into my head.
Good.
And I think like my point is like if you sincerely embody these ideas emotionally, then it's your truth.
Yeah. And you'll find alignment in it, right? So we're talking about fucking Aubrey Marcus because every time we bring it up, I tell you that I don't want to touch that topic with a 10-foot pole, and we must inherently talk about it then, of course. So, like, yeah, I mean, if he was genuinely, truly connected with his emotional body, and I think kind of part of the discussion that goes around is like this guy's doing fucking psychedelics at least once a week, so far as we can all tell, like, that's not a lot of room for integration. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I think I have heard him tell stories just in clips and stuff of certain psychedelic experiences, and it feels like he has such a control over his mind in terms of where he focuses his attention that he's actually very good at not looking at the shadow that starts to come up. You know what I mean? It's like he starts feeling a little bit shaky, shadowy, whatever the heck. And then he's like, no, 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 but like brotherly love and blah, blah, blah. And then makes a connection with someone else in that moment who's also on psychedelics. I could be making this up, but I feel like I've seen a fucking clip of him talking about this, and he kind of comes to them. Even he's the one feeling insecure, right? Initially.
Yeah.
And then he comes to them and he's like, oh, like brotherly love, and like leads them into this place of like feeling connected and love and all these things. And I think that's what's making him feel glowy is the fact that he's leading them somewhere. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
control meets control meets control. Masculine meets masculine. Like he's just leaning so hard into the experience of like tilting his perception into what he wants to see. And that's, that's a journey. Who the fuck am I to say that it's not one that he should be going down necessarily, but it does show me why, someone can be doing psychedelics once a week and still clearly not be connected to their emotions slash the women in their lives. And all of this, I'm like saying all of this and I'm like, why the fuck am I talking about someone else? I just don't give a fuck.
Yeah. So what do you give a fuck about?
Genuine, true discovery. Like if he was sitting in front of me, I would be so fascinated. I'd be so curious to ask 1,000 questions. I would dig right the fuck in. But he's not, and I'm taking clips and snippets and talk from the collective and podcasts that I've watched and forming this picture that does not reflect the true person. And that's really all I'd actually be interested in conquesting.
Yeah. So let's talk about you.
What do you want to know?
Well, let's what do you want to get into? Let's talk about your shadow.
What shadow? Really taking a shotgun approach here, Pete.
Well, yeah. Why not?
What's my shadow?
What's coming up for you?
What do you mean what's coming up? I'm just like rolling around in this energy of dissection and being in the fucking underworld and seeing all the things that I see and feel and hear. It's fun. You're right. It is fun to like know stuff.
To know stuff? What do you mean? Like, what do you know?
Like you said, the time when we were talking about the idea of like spirit kind of coming up to you and being like, deliver this message, and that you find it fun to like have the message, know something about the person, but not necessarily tell them. That kind of thing. Like, just seeing into like the bedrock of patterns and energetics and things like that.
Yeah.
And playing with it. It's fun. I feel like I'm tapping into my dark feminine aspect that I've been ignoring for a very long time.
Why were you ignoring it?
Too risky, because the dark feminine aspect I feel like is very much tied with the sexual aspect of femininity. And it was like a beacon that attracted all the pervs.
Yeah. Well, just a quick side story.
Mm-hmm.
The guy that I talked about at work who, I was having those issues with, I felt his grandfather one time come through and tell me to like set him straight.
Oh, so that was the guy.
And I told him it's not my responsibility to like fix your family's line. Like, I'm gonna do it how I want to do it. Like, leave me alone. But I want to go back into the dark feminine.
Okay.
So why do you feel like you're being called to go back into that?
I need to integrate it. I've been looking into or learning about the kind of aspects of the divine feminine, and so you've got the maiden, you've got the lover, the mother, the dark mother, or the dark feminine if you like, and then the crone. And there's like a lot of swap over between the first two and the last two, but the mother is encapsulating of all of them. And my kind of crone and dark mother energy has been lacking or really suppressed in me, in part, because I mean, on two levels, right? Because I was abused so much. Apparently, fucking new discoveries. I was abused so much, and it was safer to not be sexual. You know what I mean? To be as childlike as possible, or at least that's kind of what my my psyche learned was safe, even though that was clearly attracting all the wrong types as well. But yeah, I to reject a lot of aspects of my sexuality and instead play the eternal child felt safer to my body, because it felt like I wasn't going to attract a lot of people who would want me sexually, which it was not successful. And then in terms of the crone aspect, to tap into that, to tap into like, because that's just another aspect of the kind of darkness of the feminine, right? That would get me killed, you know, to do all of this spirituality, woo-woo stuff, to like my shadow work. I'm a natural shadow worker, you know. I've seen all this stuff for my entire life. I saw it when I was a child, and it got me destroyed by my mother, you know, metaphorically destroyed. And in another life, it got me killed. Spirituality, being able to really play with the darkness. And all of that just said, hey, you're not safe in your body. So why don't you seek, constantly, eternally seek a masculine to like take care of you, and also like play the child, you know, or away from your sexuality. And so that's what I'm integrating, and that's making me whole again. And it's really interesting because even though, you know, I'm a shadow worker and there's all this like darkness aspects to that, I have always felt like truly what I am is like an advocate for the inner child. You know, I'm not inherently a mother. I've never really felt terribly maternal, even though clearly I am. But I'm not maternal in the sense that I want kids. I'm maternal in the sense that I want everyone's inner children to be fucking safe and healed and loved by themselves.
Yeah. What have you kind of noticed from starting to integrate like the dark mother?
I trust what I see far more now. I can tap deeper into people's shadow. And it's really interesting because there is just the slightest, subtlest hint of necessary judgment in order to be able to see the depth of it. Like, I've been operating on a very kind of simultaneously emotional and mental layer of all of this, right? So you put someone in front of me and I have this like veil of innocence over my eyes. So I just see and hear what they tell me. And I can make a lot out of that. You know, I can do a lot with that already. But now that I have more of the darkness unlocked and integrated, I can see deeper. I can see so much deeper than what people are saying. And it is fascinating. And I love it. Like I feel so mysterious.
But so why does the dark mother allow you more trust? You know, like why does that energy affect your ability to trust?
Because, I mean, she's very secure in herself. She's very confident. B, it's like I don't need anyone's permission to see reality how I see it anymore. You know? Like, before, it was like trained into me to be the maiden, you know, the child. Because it was like, you know, if someone got mad at me or upset at me or disagreed with the way that I saw things or the darkness or the depth that I saw in things, I would just be like, oh, okay, I guess that I'm wrong. You know what I mean? Like, completely just be like, okay, you have, like, your version of reality is correct. Mine's wrong. I'm just a child. I don't know what I'm talking about. Which probably wasn't even true when I was a child. But especially not as an adult. And now it's like, I can see all this stuff. And like, I'm so much more playful because of it. You know what I mean? I feel like I've really tapped into And I mean, I have a lot of guides that are like related to the underworld and death, but I feel like I've really tapped into more of like the trickster in a way. Like it just feels so much fun to like play and toy and tease because I do see what I see, and I'm just like, no, I know that I can hear this. I know I can see that. And now I
Yeah.
can like just kind of gently fucking poke at those things and
Well,
make it fun.
what do you think the, like, if you had to make a theme for like the Dark Mother, do you think she's like angry?
No,
No.
she's not. I think people really associate the dark feminine with anger. And don't get me wrong, that is absolutely the pole to swing into to integrate more of it. And I have done that. And it's not an incorrect kind of association, but
Vengeful?
no. Again, like the pole, correct, right? Like if you've been living as a maiden your whole life and then you get sexually assaulted, to embody more of that energy, if you have less ability to kind of integrate very precisely, like I've worked up to, you would swing into that pole. You'd be 100% going fucking ballistic on certain people. And like, even so, recently we've been talking about my realization that a family friend sexually assaulted me when I was a kid. And the thoughts have all gone through my mind. Like, do I tell my whole family? Um, do I go to the police? Do I fucking text him that I fucking remember what he did? Like, what? All these like kind of vigilante kind of stories have been going through me, but I don't really feel like it. You know what I mean? Like, I just accepted it. I can see it always takes a victim to make a victim, you know?
Yeah.
Whether they were also assaulted or not. No one does that stuff if they're fucking healthy. No one does that stuff if they're not also fucking hurting inside in some capacity. And it doesn't invalidate it. It doesn't invalidate my pain whatsoever about it, but I don't know, there's just like a solidness. She's
Yeah.
kind of the aspect of the feminine that can love even the most fucked up people, I feel like.
Yeah.
One of them, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a warrior type energy. I wouldn't say maybe a typical warrior, but it has the same,
It has an
like,
energy. Yeah.
yeah, the same vibe.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of like the crone, what is the crone aspect kind of offering you?
I don't know yet. A kind
Yeah.
of ancient wisdom. I can feel like I can feel it in my bones. The crone energy. Like it just feels so like, no, I've been here for millennia. Like
Yeah.
take my wisdom or leave it. I don't care. But I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And there's like such a psychic aspect to it as well.
Yeah. The crone. See, to me, it's like, yeah, the crone represents like the old. It's like the old wisdom. It's like the what?
I feel like I'm hypnotizing you with my voice. Like I
Are
feel like
you?
I'm putting you into a fucking I don't not deliberately,
You
but I'm
sure?
just like I'm in this like really deep like resonance of my voice and it feels like it's just like taking you out.
It does. It definitely has an effect on me. Um, but I feel like it also kind of like mellows me out a little bit, and it allows me to kind of open up.
Yeah.
What?
It's just beautiful. I'm just like, oh my god, I am a siren. I'm literally a siren. Like I can use my voice to bring people into different states of consciousness. All of this is just coming to me in the moment.
We'll have to experience. We'll have to experiment with trance and see if you can.
I wonder how deep I can take you.
What does that mean?
I don't know yet.
Um, well, like, you talk about like being vulnerable emotionally. It's like, what's more vulnerable than like going into a trance state and allowing spirit to come through you and like have somebody hold space for you. Like
Absolutely.
you have to like really trust the person who's kind of like holding the room together while you are kind of stepping out of your body or and allowing like spirit to come through.
Plus, you have to trust the spirit. It's ultimate surrender.
See, I never really didn't, I don't know how to say that right. I never not trusted spirit. Did I say a double negative?
No, I think it was correct.
Okay.
Okay.
I always trusted spirit. I'll say it like that.
Yeah.
And I always thought people who had, even myself, like had negative experiences, I feel like they just didn't really understand what was going on.
I would
What,
agree with that conceptually.
yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's things that come up, but like, I feel like I always thought it was God. So what would happen?
Mm.
But I guess even God has his days.
You know, I don't not trust spirit either, but something about surrendering and like fully letting go feels very confronting and unstable and scary. You know,
Yeah, well, it's definitely scary.
relinquishing control of my body is what it is.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm integrating to, is like feeling like I feel like I can see this process being like, I really need to feel like I am fully in control of my body and that I'm completely safe in my body to be able to then step out of it, because I've been stuck in this halfway point forever. Like I have to
Yeah.
find the security first to then find the trust.
Mm. But that's like human nature. Like it's a very basic idea that, is portrayed in different ways, but it's like um I feel like you are putting me in like a trance.